Joe referred to the city as a petting zoo. He said that Eddie Kingston never reached his full potential and will not cross the finish line at Winter's Coming, just like every other time. Eddie Kingston said that Samoa Joe sold his soul. Eddie said he doesn't respect the current version of Samoa Joe. He said that Joe is now the guy that he is the guy that he used to call out back in the day. Joe would call out wrestlers years ago, and now Joe is that guy. He said that Joe needs to bring the old version of himself or he will be eaten alive. And that was that. It was a relatively quick segment. As Michael Wayne in the chat pointed out, Eddie's basically a filler opponent for Samoa Joe. This segment just didn't really pack the punch of some of these great promo segments. One thing about AEW in the early years, some of these promo battles would be intense. I remember CM Punk and Eddie Kingston. MJF, numerous promo battles would be intense. This, considering these two guys that were in it, just lacked energy. And the crowd was completely quiet for it too. No reaction to almost anything in the promo. It was a little bit of a letdown, but then again, Eddie Kingston is just a filler opponent for Samoa Joe. It is what it is. We had our first match of the evening, Okada versus Pac in another Continental Classic. Now, Okada lost last week, so he ain't losing again. For that, it made me not really care about the match, knowing that there was pretty much zero chance of Okada losing. Okada was the early aggressor, and then, of course, Pac got in his offense. He got caught with Okada's dropkick, though. Okada went to the top, but then Pac caught him and did a super brainbuster, gave him the big clothesline, and went for the brutalizer, but I guess the big clothesline really wasn't anything that special because Okada just rolled him up into a pin and got the 1-2-3 victory. Okada advances. No surprise here. Match was fine, but crowd was kind of dead for it. And in fact, this was a weak crowd. One thing about AEW is for years, they always had really hot crowds. Like every week, it was pretty much a guarantee the fans would be red hot for the show. And it was just quiet for much of this broadcast. We had a bunch of video packages and backstage segments hyping up the Ring of Honor show that I have no interest in. They were also hyping up Collision, which I have no interest in. Ricochet has a ROH match, its final battle. He's fighting Dalton Castle, yawn. And then he issued an open challenge for Collision, yawn. We then had Kyle Fletcher versus Kevin, don't call him LA Knight. They had a feeling out process, which means this match is going to be long. And in fact, it was pretty long. Fletcher retreated to the outside and Knight went right after him, did the springboard clothesline. We had a commercial. Knight started to build up momentum. He did a springboard clothesline in the ring, but Fletcher kicked out of that. And then he had a DDT to Fletcher on the apron. And then Knight did his coast to coast that he did last week. However, that was not enough. He did the frog splash and Fletcher was able to reverse that into a pin attempt, but Knight did kick out. They traded some near falls, but then Fletcher did pick up the win with the brainbuster. And as Matthew in the chat pointed out, no way Fletcher was losing to Kevin Knight. Another match that was good, and this was better than the first match, I thought. And the crowd did get into it a little bit, but still, I never thought for a second that Fletcher was losing this one. Post-match, we had Josh Alexander, and Hechicero coming down with bags of money. Don Callis cut a promo, and he talked about how the Young Bucks committed an unforgivable sin by joining up with Kenny Omega. The Bucks ran down, and they fought with the Don Callis family. They hit the BTE trigger to Fletcher, but then Okada attacked them, and then Jurassic Express made the save. Perry bit the middle finger of Okada, and then the rest of the Don Callis family came down. Don Callis got his shots in, and then Kenny Omega ran down, cleared the ring. Maybe the highlight of the show, I don't know. But yeah, good guys stood tall to end the segment. We then had a holiday death match in the women's tag team title tournament. We had Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir against Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. They brawled on the outside. Toni Storm used a champagne bottle as a weapon. Mina, I should say, Mina and Marina. Mina used the barbed wire candy cane as a weapon. Marina Shafir got busted open at one point. And then Megan and Marina got the upper hand for a while. But then Mina dropkicked the chair into Megan's face. And then Toni Storm hit the Storm Zero to Megan off the apron through a table below. And Marina put on a submission to Mina. But Toni Storm helped Mina escape. And then Mina hit a sling blade to Marina onto the chair. But Megan Bayne broke up the pin. And then Toni Storm gave a Storm Zero to Megan onto Marina. And then we had Santa coming down. And as it turns out, Santa was Luther. He gave a middle finger as a gift. And Toni Storm took advantage of this, pinned Marina Shafir to win the match. And I'm glad that Toni and Mina did win, since they picked the stipulation for this. It would have been dumb if they lost. It was a good match, good TV match, and the right team won. I will say that. We had a backstage interview from the TBS, Ring of Honor, whatever, champion Mercedes Moné. She hyped herself up as the PWI Female Wrestler of the Year, but will she win the NoDQ.com Female Superstar of the Year? That remains to be seen. And she hyped up her Ring of Honor match against Red Velvet. I don't care about that.
Father God, help me know, oh God, you want me to see. I know how much job you know, Father God. I know how much job you need to serve. Open up the way for me now, man. Full time now, Father God. You're going to make me go team. You're going to make me go team, oh God Almighty Jesus.
Father, won't you stretch your hand?
Shout out to Dave Scheffler, who sent in a $5 super chat, and I'll get to that in just a few moments, Dave, so stay tuned. We had another backstage promo from FTR. They hyped up a match with the Bang Bang Gang, and they referred to the Guns as Billy's Boys, and they referred to Juice Robinson as Mr. Storm. The heels are supposed to lie, so when they're saying this stuff like the Guns are just Billy's Boys and Juice Robinson is Mr. Storm, well, kind of true. And the heels should be lying. They should not be telling the truth. And I'm kind of with FTR. That's how I see the Guns and Juice Robinson at this point. We had Dark Order. They're still working in AEW. Dark Order came out for a match with the Ops, but first they told Hangman Page to stay in the back. And it was the Ops versus the Dark Order. And this went about 6-7 minutes longer than it should have. honestly, Powerhouse Hobbs should have squashed these guys in a minute. Do Hobbs versus the Dark Order, 3-on-1. Hobbs beats them in a minute. Doing a trios match here and making it competitive kind of hurt the Ops, in my opinion. Like, these guys are your top heel faction now, and they could barely beat the Dark Order. Come on, what is this? Anyways, Hobbs did win after a competitive match. He got the win with the Spine Buster. And afterwards, Hangman Page ran down, and security was out there to restrain Page for whatever reason as Hobbs got away. It wasn't even the Ops Dojo. It was just guys with security on their T-shirts. We had a little backstage segment with the Don Callis family to catch the God in Okada's face, and Fletcher calmed things down a little bit and said that at least somebody in the Don Callis family is going to leave with the Continental title, and they're going to have the International title and the whatever title, this title, that title, I don't know. And then we had another segment with Hangman Page, and he said next week at Winter is Coming, he's going to have a match with Hobbs and Shibata, but he's not coming alone. And I suspect this is not a swerve, but it is a swerve, if you know what I'm saying. We'll see what happens next week on that. And then we had our main event, which was Jon Moxley versus his brother in the Death Riders, Claudio. And these two friends decided to damn near try to kill each other in this match out of the spirit of competition. Moxley was gouging the eyes. Claudio busted open Moxley because Moxley must bleed on Dynamite. Even though we saw blood earlier on the show, we need it again. And then he did the big swing. They traded near falls. Moxley did a stomp, but Claudio kicked out. And then he put on a rear naked sleeper, but Claudio escaped. And then they fought on the outside. Then they fought in the ring. Moxley kept kicking out, but eventually enough was enough. Claudio hit the uppercut, and he got the 1-2-3 victory over his brother, Jon Moxley. And that was the end of Dynamite. No cliffhanger, no post-match angle. They just had a match. Moxley bled, Claudio won, and that was it. So a little underwhelming in my opinion. It's the Continental Classic, so it's that time of year where we have a tournament to stretch things out over the next month until World's End. Show was kind of boring, in my opinion. I thought the matches were solid, but nothing I'll remember a week from now. Crowd was lackluster, not much energy. I'm still missing MJF. Where the hell is MJF? I'm missing something crazy. Like, I want some interesting storylines and some cutting-edge television, and this Dynamite just felt kind of lifeless to me. I'm going 4 out of 10 for Dynamite this week. A little below par. Nothing too interesting. They do have a Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal coming up, so maybe MJF will show up for that. But he has a guaranteed world title match. Keep in mind he has that contract, and the winner of the Dynamite Diamond match gets an AEW title match. So I don't know if MJF's coming back or not. Now, I do want to get to Dave Scheffler, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Dave. He says, surprised, no draw in the main event, but interesting that Claudio didn't go up to Moxley. I guess that angle and why Kenny didn't come out with Jurassic Express. Well, I'm thinking Moxley gets kicked out of the Death Riders at some point, and that's where this is all going with Moxley on this losing streak and downward spiral. But they need to get to the point soon because I'm very quickly losing interest in it. I'm ready for Moxley to be kicked out, take a break, stay at home for several months, and then come back as a babyface, and we'll see what happens with Moxley. But right now, I'm ready for something different. It's just not intriguing to me, and I'm ready for the Death Riders to no longer be a thing, quite frankly. But I feel like Moxley will get kicked out at some point, and they'll continue on. Now, I'm really hoping when TNA starts on AMC, that will light a fire under AEW. I am actually going to check out TNA when it starts up in January on AMC. I'll watch it, and I think I'll even do a live recap on that Thursday night. I'm hoping TNA can shake things up. You know, we've been talking about TNA for years, how they kind of fell off the island of relevancy in the wrestling world, but this is their chance now. They got the AMC deal. They're going to have the most exposure they've had since leaving Spike TV, and I'm hopeful they can put on an interesting, compelling product, and maybe Tony Khan will have to shake up his product a little bit, at least the weekly shows, because the pay-per-views are great. I give them credit for that, but the weekly TVs, man, it's just not that interesting to me. They're just going out there and having matches, and it's been very repetitive, and the tournament especially, I know people like it, and if you enjoy it, more power to you, but this tournament's not for me. I want some more unpredictability on my weekly wrestling shows. I want to feel like anything can happen, and AEW just feels like Tony Khan's booking his matches, we're getting his matches, and it just doesn't have much energy or life to it, in my opinion. And it needs a shake up. I'm hoping TNA can really put on a great show when they start things up on AMC, and Tony Khan might actually have to do something with Dynamite to keep the eyeballs on his product. It'll be interesting to see what happens in January. I'm rooting for TNA that they can take it to the next level in January. And like I said, I will recap TNA. And I'm hoping I'll be more enthusiastic for wrestling in the new year with the AMC deal for TNA, and maybe AEW can step it up and WWE can have a strong start to the year. Let's hope so. I mean, this period in December, it is the December blues. I mean, it's pretty typical every year around this time. You got Christmas coming up, and not much effort. And this goes for WWE too. Not much effort put into the storylines. It's just we got to fill TV time through December. So AEW does the Continental Classic, and WWE doesn't even have a pay-per-view in December. We got John Cena's retirement, and beyond that, not much else to look forward to until like the Royal Rumble in late January, early February, whenever it is. I think it's like January 31st or February 1st or something in that ballpark. I don't even know the exact date of the Rumble, but yeah, it's a little bit of a dull time right now, and I'm hoping things will pick up in the new year. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and the sooner MJF comes back, the better. This show is really needing MJF badly to come out there, and we need something explosive. No Hurt Syndicate either, and they're one of the best acts in the company, and they were nowhere to be found on this show. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm holding out hope that it can end on a strong note with World's End. We'll see what happens. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. I will be back Friday night after SmackDown. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.
You are a precious little thing. You really are. And you are loved for every second of your beautiful little life. Oh, yes, you are. You are big and